Generous. He's very generous.
He doesn't want to say you're wrong. He
He's
said
very
he's not
creative.
mean.
He's not getting control.
He's just not mean.
He's like just
He didn't prompt me on the Rivonia trial speech.
Well, he doesn't like you.
I just gave him that. Really?
Oh, wow.
Can I get 10 points?
No.
Oh, we could have a little momentum.
Yeah.
What number team were you?
We're 6.
And you guys take.
Carson, I'll bet you 10 points that we win.
I don't know. How's that
Your
work?
reader
It's a
scorekeeper
5-point game.
Scorekeeper would be great.
Okay, I can do that.
And if we win by 5, then we suddenly win by 25, I guess.
Alright.
Make it out of here before 9:30.
He's talking about the breakfast with Sachi. He's like, it was like 16 rounds. He's like, that's it.
I mean, we have 3 more rounds to play.
Let's do it.
But, you know, if you won more games, then you'd be playing more rounds.
If we won all of it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have one.
If I'd known, I wouldn't have bothered writing the other 3
Use
rounds.
player name to the first name is the furthest from you.
Yeah, just, sorry, I'm left-handed. Okay. Packet comes to you from these fine people. Here's Toss-Up 1. The 2014 KDD conference gave a Test of Time award to a 1996 paper by Kriegel et al. That proposed an algorithm for accomplishing this task, which improved upon the Clarence algorithm to work against data sets of arbitrary shapes. The branching factor is a parameter in an algorithm that performs this task and generates a characteristic feature tree is implemented in the Birch module for Python. That's a good class, dude. That's for you.
Nice.
You know a lot about scikit-learn?
Actually, we just powered every topic all day. This is just, usual stuff, right?
Great buzz. Let's see what you know about knowing things. Answer the following questions related to epistemology. This philosophical position argues that we can't be certain that we know anything. It was advocated by sexist empiricist Impero of Ellis, who names the school of this doctrine. This epistemological framework, contra skepticism, claims that a person can't know some proposition P if said person has a true justified belief in P and acquire that belief in P through the namesake kind of process. This theory of knowledge and justification is championed by such figures as Alvin Goodman and Alvin Plantinga.
Oh,
Mostly just people named Alvin.
like induction. It's not an induction.
Okay.
Induction.
This is called reliabilism or process reliability or just reliability, whatever. This G.E. Moore work attempts to debunk the skeptical position using the namesake method, which involves the author claiming that here is one hand and here is another.
Is it bulk? Another one?
It's not in Forgive, I think it's in the other one, right?
You got it.
Forgive, I think.
It's called proof of an external world. You get 10 points. Toss-up 2. In a surah of this name, a man performs strange activities such as helping workers of an inhospitable town repair a wall and removing planks from a boat after the pilot did not charge him a fare. That same man, Al-Qadir, or Al-Qadir, kills a youth who would have grown up and caused his parents to lose faith in a surah of this name when he's visited by Moses. A figure described in a surah of this name is responsible for erecting an iron barrier between Gog and Magog. A surah named for one of these places was revealed after some Jews posed 3 questions to Muhammad, one of which asked him to identify the figure of Dul Karnayn. The 18th or Al-Kahf surah is named after one of these places. In another story, one of these places called Gar al-Tawr is used as a hiding place.
Okay.
That was totally great. Here's your bonus. Nehemiah chapter 8 describes how Ezra restored this tradition in a form that may be the model for modern practice for temporary teaching. This activity often performed between 3 and 7 olim, and followed by the Haftarah on Shabbat.
Okay.
Shalom.
Yeah, go on that part.
No, it's the reading of the Torah. Since it is forbidden to touch the Sefer Torah with the hand, this instrument consisting of a pencil-sized rod with a tiny hand affixed to the end can be used by the toilet to keep it in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Unlike the handwritten Sefer Torah, a printed Torah is suitable for study is known by this term derived from the Hebrew word for 5.
No, not Hebrew.
What do you got?
Midrash.
It's called a Chumash. You've got 10 points. Toss-up 3. This government often employed Bernard Jean Bettelheim as a translator. One leader of this kingdom was nicknamed the Mute and mostly gave up power to the Council of Three. The Bridge of Nations bell was cast by this nation, part of which underwent the Sugar Hell after its annexation. After an invasion, one leader of this polity swore an oath of fealty called the 15 Injunctions. The first ruler of this kingdom united the separate polities of Chuzan, Hokuzan, and Nanzan and aimed to prevent revolution by a group of lords called the Aji. Leaders of this nation lived in Shuri Castle and belonged to the Shou family. This kingdom periodically sent tribute ships to China and was also annexed after a 1609 invasion by the Satsuma domain. This kingdom was formally abolished in 1879 by the Meiji government. For 10 points, name this kingdom that ruled Naruto.
What? Oh, sorry, I don't know, I did Ryukyu.
That's right.
Work.
10 points for you.
Good job.
That is the.
Don't apologize for your knowledge. Answer the following about dangerous chemicals for 10 points each. At UCLA, Sherry Sonju died after accidentally exposing a compounding consisting of a butyl group bonded to an ion of this element to air. That tert-butyl form of this element is a pyrophoric strong-reducing agent.
What is it?
That doesn't seem right.
What'd you say?
Mercury.
Say it.
What do you got? Yeah. A doctoral student in Texas Tech lost several fingers after he attempted to break up clumps of nickel hydrazine perchlorate with this set of tools, which are used to grind substances.
Mortar and pestle.
What the hell, man? This Dartmouth chemistry professor died after a drop of dimethyl mercury passed through the latex gloves diffused into your skin while researching the role of mercury ions in DNA repair.
Is she the woman who died of dimethyl mercury?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't remember.
This is sad.
This is cautionary tale.
You got anything? Okay, it's Karen Wetterham.
Caution, 10 points of studies.
There it is, toss-up. So you got 20 points. Here's toss-up 4. In the larghetto second movement of a piece of this type and number, the trombones enter to play in a pianissimo coda after having been silent the whole movement. The final movement of another piece of this type and number begins with the unaccompanied first violins repeatedly struggling to complete a scale starting on G, but once they reach the F above, the music breaks into allegro molto e vivace tempo. The opening adagio molto section of that piece begins with the secondary dominance of the chord, which gives the impression of starting in the wrong key because it resolves to the subdominant of F. The second and third movements of the piece of this type and number were originally titled Evening and Merry Playmates, respectively, and the final movement borrows the final theme from its composer's Chrysleriana. That piece was written following encouragement from the composer's wife Clara after their marriage the previous year. 10 points identify this number held by Beethoven's only symphony in C major, as well as one in B flat major by Robert Schumann, which is named Spring.
Oh, Symphony number 3.
No, that was incorrect. No.
Isn't Beethoven's first one?
Sure.
Yeah, good job.
You get 10 points.
Sounds clear.
Here's your bonus. This novel ends with Richard Schuhart sacrificing Arthur Barbridge to the meat grinder, after which Schuhart reaches the golden ball, to which he's only able to say, "Let there be free happiness for everyone, and let no one go away disappointed." For 10 points each, identify this novel in which the Pillman Blind is home to 6 zones, which are routinely traversed by stalkers looking for artifacts.
Yeah, they did.
The running.
What you got?
They
No, this is called Roadside Picnic.
Oh.
Roadside Picnic was written by these two brothers with first name Boris and Arkady, who are generally considered to be the giants of Soviet-era science fiction. They also wrote the screenplay for Tarkovsky's adaptation, Stalker.
No, that's not it.
Yeah.
It's not.
What do you have?
Draw.
Well, it's Strugatsky. The golden ball, when sought by Schuhart and other stalkers, is an artifact alleged to have this power. In a W.W. Jacobs short story, this power is possessed by the titular monkey's paw.
But it curses the teeth.
That is also what the golden ball
Oh,
We should require that.
or rather, it grants your deepest wish, but not necessarily the one you ask for. Here's toss of 5. In this essay, the narrator remembers seeing a movie ironically called This Land Is Mine before walking outside and feeling a physical click at the base of his neck. At the end of its first section, its narrator describes walking into a fashionable restaurant where the apologetic tone of a waitress made him colder and more murderous, causing him to pick up a mug.
Go to the news on 50.
Nice job.
An early English language text advocating this position was A.G.P. Taylor's The Course of German History, which argued that the history of Germany is a history of extremes, and points each identified the school of historiography, which holds that the rise of a Nazi-like state in Germany was all but inevitable. The school's name comes from the unusual road Germany took to get from monarchy to democracy.
I don't know. The fascist road.
This is called the Sonderweg School, or the Special Path School. William Schirer's The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich traces a direct link between this German and Hitler, arguing that this theologian had a ferocious belief in absolute political authority. That belief is supported by this man's tract against the murders leading hordes of peasants. Yeah. Liberal Weimar culture, often blamed for giving rise to Nazis by Sonderweg historians, was explored in the 1968 book by this historian. He also wrote The Enlightenment and Interpretation, and the 1988 biography Freud, A Life of Our Time. Life for Our Time.
Shoemaker.
This dude is Peter Gay. Identify the following about Silver Fork novels. Oh, sorry, you're going to be answered. About Silver Fork novels. All right, toss of 6. Several rulers of this polity were served by the Admiral Eugenius, who was also a distinguished intellectual at this polity's court, translating Ptolemy's optics into Latin during his time here. A ruler of this polity allied with the antipope Anacletus and captured Innocent II, forcing the latter to recognize his title. Hugo Falcandus chronicled the reign of another ruler of this kingdom, who was given the sobriquet the Bad. That ruler, William I, was succeeded by his son, William II, who was called, that's right, dude, 15. He was called the Good. All right, now you're going to be answering about Silver Fork novels, whatever that means. The term originated with the Dandy School, a review by this critic complaining that novelist Theodore Hook was obsessed with silver forks of the nobility. This author of The Spirit of the Age outlined how man alone among animals enjoys the incongruous in his 1819 essay on wit and humor.
Is this, the spirit of the age? Is this Charles Lamb?
It is William Hazlitt. This author wrote one of the earliest Silver Fork novels, Vivian Grey. This featured Prime Minister examining that is. The character of Mr. Bungay in this Thackeray novel is based on Henry Colburn, a publisher of Silver Fork literature. Its snobby title character eventually ends up with Laura Bell on his estate at Fair Oaks after his doting uncle, the Major, hatches various marriage plots involving a husband of Jemima Amory.
Yeah. Is this perhaps, the Virgin?
It is the history of Pendennis.
What's that?
Okay, that was 10 points. Toss of 7. Wigner and Weisbach were the first to derive the delta function spectrum of this process at low intensities. At high intensities, the spectrum of this process is in a simple two-level driven system takes on the form of 3 Lorentzians consisting of a central peak and 2 sidebands that peak at the central frequency plus or minus the Rabi frequency, a result known as the Molo triplet. Carmichael and Walls first derived the result that showed that a single atom version of this process would demonstrate photon anti-bunching, or the tendency of the emitted light to be spaced coherently, an effect observed experimentally by Kimball. Though it is not the Raman effect, this process can exhibit a phenomenon in which time required for emission results in an energy loss known as the Stokes shift. The efficiency of this process, which emits photons that have sub-Poissonian statistics, is usually measured by a ratio called quantum yield. For 10 points, identify this process in which a stimulated system re-emits light. Here's your bonus. She was killed by her son Alcmaeon for the death of her husband Amphiaraus. For 10 points each, named the sister of Adrastus, who was bribed with the necklace of Harmonia to convince her husband to join the Seven Against Thebes. What do you got? It's Eryphile or Eryphile. This brother of Eteocles gave the necklace to Eryphile. He and his brother killed each other in a duel outside Thebes, and the prohibition on his body's burial was broken by his sister Antigone.
What are they called? No, which the sons of Oedipus, what are they called?
Is it Cleo?
No,
That's not right.
Okay,
I don't know. It's probably
that's Polynices.
Yes.
Alcmaeon attempted to use the necklace of Harmonia to win the hand of this king's daughter Arsinoe. When Alcmaeon tried to go back on his word, this king's sons, Agenor and Pernos, killed him.
You want to just try it?
Okay, it's Phaegius. You get nothing.
Oh, I was first, I forgot to write down how many points was scored on bonus 5.
Bonus 5 was the Sonderweg bonus for this team. They got 10 points from Martin. Toss up 8. Characters in the novel with this title break the window of Nicotarus' fish shop in order to fulfill a wish of a dead colleague who imagined fish as prisoners. The protagonist of a novel with this title works in works with Squizzy Taylor to save a man from gangrene and has an affair with Amy, the proprietress of the King of Cornwall Inn. It's the same name of a novel about the Australian surgeon Dorigo Evans, who tries to save
Arrow to the deep.
50.
Great. Again.
Here's your bonus. The title character of this opera falls in love with Giuseppe Hagenbach, the enemy of her father Strominger. For 10 points each, identify this favorite opera of Arturo Toscanini, which climaxes with an avalanche that kills Hagenbach, driving the title character to take her own life.
Maybe?
The Molly,
Yeah. The libretto for Catalani's La Vallée was written by Luigi Illica, who also penned the libretto to this composer's opera Manon Lescaut, even known better for his opera Gianni Schicchi. Puccini.
yeah, that's right.
Puccini.
Yeah. Near the end of the first act, while Lee sings this famous aria after she decides to leave her homeland and marry a man she does not love, she follows their wedding party to the mountains.
This is famous.
Jerry Chinichi.
Okay, it's Eben Leandro Lotana, or Well Then I'll Go Far Away.
Yeah.
That is, that gets you 20 points. 9. In an essay about this man, he's described as the third of the great images of the modern age, with the first being Rousseau and the second being Goethe. In that essay, this man is praised as a teacher because of his honesty, cheerfulness, and steadfastness. In the preface to one of his works, this philosopher describes a different philosopher as a colossal piece of mystification that would qualify an image for Bedlam. That word identifies compassion as the only true non-egoistic motive and claims that everything is a manifestation of will. In a different work, this philosopher compared life to a pendulum, and his ideas would lead another philosopher to develop the concept of the will to power. This philosopher is described as an educator in one of Nietzsche's untimely meditations. The student of Fichte despised the work of Hegel and critiqued the use of the thing in itself.
Schopenhauer?
That's 10 points. These units often drew from the same exact men, as those who participated in fox hunts for 10 points each. Identify this force of part-time country cavalry in England, whose Nottinghamshire contingent was founded in 1794. They were not obliged to serve in overseas armies, although an imperial contingent of them served in the Second World War.
Those are foot soldiers. Sure. Fusiliers.
These are the yeomanry. The yeomanry helped carry out this massacre on August 16, 1819 in Manchester. This massacre took place under the 15 Hussars and the Cheshire Volunteers were set in a crowd that gathered to hear Henry Hunt speak. Yeah. Another British domestic force acted during the Napoleonic Wars with the militias, many of which were concentrated at this town. This town became popular thanks to seawater enthusiast Richard Russell, whose clients included the future George IV.
Oh, is that, that's Brighton, Brighton.
Yeah, 20.
Brighton.
Seawater enthusiast. Toss of 10. Among the many alternate names that have been used for this island are the Evangelist Island, Grapefruit Island, and Island of 500 Murders. Most of the southern part of this island is taken up by a national park known as Lanier Swamp, while the cape on its eastern point contains some well-preserved Siboney pictographs. The United States gave up its claims to this largest island in the Canarios archipelago in the Hay Quesada Treaty, while its capital and largest city is Nueva Gerona, and that was founded in 1830 by colonial governor Francisco Dionisio Vives. Other attractions include the estate where Jose Marti spent 9 weeks before being shipped off to exile in Spain, and the Panopticon-style prison that held the perpetrators of the Moncada Barracks attack. Renamed in 1978 for the communist training camps for the high school that was established here by Fidel Castro, Camp White States Cuban island known for its coniferous forests. I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's the island.
The island.
The island. You know what's coniferous. Here's your bonus.
Do that.
Seth Pausner and Edward Tuft proposed revising these entities to incorporate a high information graphic that automatically includes Reed's classification for templates each. Identify these things whose narrative generally includes progress notes. Many of these things contain soap notes.
These are medical records.
That's what they are. Edward Tuft is a fan of this man's graphic of Napoleon's invasion and retreat from Russia, which includes 6 separate variables in a single chart. This French engineer also made a figurative map of Hannibal crossing the Alps.
Yeah, it's Edward something.
Just say what you're saying. Yeah, that's right. Menard used a similar technique of tan lines of different widths on a gray map in order to show the export of this good from France. An American-based aphid nearly destroyed this industry in France in the 19th century, and it is a major industry in Languedoc.
So it's not.
Is it cotton?
No.
Textiles cotton.
What do you got?
Cotton.
It's wine.
Okay, that's it.
Oh,
You guys
yeah.
weren't
That's all right. I was just-
What do you got? Noted. Toss-up 11. In a letter named for this character's cigar, Susan Sontag analyzed the scene in which this character twice offers a cigar to a man whom he had just rescued from drowning. With the help of his aunt Asi, or Asi, this character rescues a young man named Madeleine from execution before becoming chief of the police. This character is accused of the murder of a woman who kills herself after sleeping with a baron she had been seducing for months. This character has the letters T and F branded onto his shoulders, which is discovered after this character becomes unconscious from drinking drugged wine. At one point, this man adopts the guise of Abe Carlos Herrera, a role in which he tries to swindle Baron de Nucingen with the help of...
Beltran.
It is Beltran.
Good idea.
You should check it out and see
Super toss-up.
What's that?
Good idea for a toss-up.
There you go. That was exciting. That was submitted. That's a good question. Here's your bonus. This man's painting on the head of the head of Christ in the net is based on the now lost Van Eyck painting, but adds gory new details such as blood dripping down from the cross of thorns onto Christ's chest for 10 points each. Identify this Netherlandish artist who brought geometric perspective and an antique point to northern Europe with his Virgin enthroned with St. Jerome and Francis. This artist, a portrait of a Carthusian, was Bruges' leading painter along with Memling in the generation after Van Eyck. In the generation after that.
So, Rudy and Bruges painting things.
Answer?
Got it.
That is Petrus Christus. The medieval craze for the veil of Veronica or Holy Face led many other artists to paint small devotional portraits of Christ, such as this Flemish artist, whose Judgment of Cambyses was one of the first Northern Renaissance paintings to include Italian-style putti. What do you got?
Netherlands.
That's Gerard David, or David, whatever. This later artist, Munich self-portrait, is a riff on the Holy Face motif. This German artist of praying hands and the four apostles holds a Thessalonian self-portrait.
Sure.
Toss 12. A child holds a blue life buoy next to this man who is waving from a boat. In the painting, Strive Forward and Good New Tides. Errol Gudmundur depicted this man visiting Venice in a riff on a popular painting of this figure that depicts him carrying an umbrella and wearing a plain garment. A 14-foot tall portrait of this man at the Art Institute of Chicago depicts him with blue eyeliner and rouge on his cheeks. The sculpture Legacy Mantle consists solely of 3 of this man's iconic jackets.
Elvis Presley.
Say again?
Elvis Presley.
That's incorrect. Last spot. 3 men were removed from a crowd that stands to his left in the painting The Founding Ceremony of a Nation. A contraposted portrait of this figure as a young man in a Caspar David Friedrich cloudy mountain setting was printed some 900 million times and depicts him traveling to Anyuan. For 9 points, name is World Leader, the subject of numerous silk screen paintings by Andy Warhol based on a portrait originally included in this man's Little Red Book.
Wow.
I think you had like Arcane and movies where she float through and flies.
Oh, wait.
For each one.
All of them?
Well, like you have, like Ashman should be the one getting this.
Oh.
I see it.
Yeah.
I fixed that there.
All right, not the.
Well, whatever.
Points.
It'll stay a second.
Yeah, there's scribble notes on those.
It's glorious.
We'll cut this out first. And do it live.
Editing is for some
Okay, we're good now.
All right, listen. Here we go. Here's your bonus. John Brick analyzed the acoustics of the central building in this place, noting that it was designed to encourage a feeling of sounds coming from every direction at once. For 10 points each, identify this archaeological site in Peru where religious rituals took place as early as 1200 BCE. The only entrance to the old temple of the site faced the Mosna River to the east.
No, especially.
Okay. It's Chavin de Quattar.
Right.
Members of this other civilization of ancient Peru removed dark stones and replaced them with lighter stones to create geoglyphs in the shape of a hummingbird, monkeys, lizards, and other figures. The Nazca culture created these still-standing kukois, which are structures of this sort. Another one of these structures, named for Chapultepec, was engineered by Nezahualcoyotl and stands over the Sevilla metro station.
The castle?
That is incorrect. It is an aqueduct. We received 10 points. The castle is small. 15. This man was pursued unsuccessfully by an old woman who chased him while on a flying water lily leaf and shot poison darts at him through a hole in the leaf. After this man's death, Angus Ang would reanimate his corpse periodically to converse with him. This man killed a giant named Saraban, who had been guarding the berries of the forest of Dubros, and used those berries to help a friend of his win 3 straight Finchal games against that friend's father. This man unwisely chose to use the sword Beagaltak and the spear Gay Bouillier instead of the longer moral-talking Guy Diarme, which resulted in his death at the hands of a boar.
This is what Dearman is.
That is what he is. He's that guy. He did those things. These phenomena can be called subcritical or supercritical, depending on whether they result in an unstable limit cycle around a stable equilibrium point or a stable limit cycle around an unstable equilibrium point. Yeah, what's he? Identify these phenomena in these theory of dynamical systems, which result when the periodic solution either arises or disappears as a parameter in the system processing critical value.
Yeah, these are those like,
What you got?
transitions.
They're called Hopf bifurcations. Hopf bifurcations are characteristic of systems undergoing this behavior, characterized by extreme sensitivity to perturbations in initial conditions.
Chaotics.
For systems approaching chaos through period doubling, the convergent limit of the ratio of bifurcation intervals and the ratio between the width of a time and its subtime are these two constants that govern universal behavior in many chaotic systems.
You know what the fight involved?
Yeah.
That's what they are. Good job. Yeah, 20. In 1995, Sirach and Zoller created the first controlled not quantum gate using one of these devices. These devices can be used to create systems of geonium atoms, which can be represented as electrons bound to the Earth. A magnetized nickel wire wrapped around one of these devices can create a bottle field, which can be used to measure the properties of its contents. These devices have been used to record the most accurate measurements of the electromagnetic moment.
Are they squids?
They are not. Samples are sent into a quadrupole example of these devices and then spun in Fourier transform ICR mass spectrometry. The development of one of these devices earned Hans-Georg Demmelt and Wolfgang Paul the 1989 Nobel Prize in Physics. A type of these devices used by CERN's ALPHA experiment to store antimatter was developed by Franz Michael Penning. For 10 points, name these devices that use combinations of electric and magnetic fields to isolate and capture charged particles. That is time. These are called ion traps. Okay, 15. This man's second wife, Marina de la de Castile, conducted a salon from his library at St. Mond, and a residence also equipped with a lab. A residence also equipped with a lab where he personally conducted experiments under the supervision of Jean Piquet. Under this minister, a tapestry workshop was founded at Nancy. The judge, Olivier de Ormesson, fell from power after siding with this man during his trial. The comedy The Bourse was written for one event hosted by this man, who commissioned André Lenotre to design some 50 fountains for his estate. This man was imprisoned in Pignerol after his sentence of exile was commuted. His downfall came after giving a lavish celebration in his Val-de-Victon estate, which resulted in the discovery of this man's embezzlement. 3 weeks later, this last man to hold the post of Superintendant des Finances was arrested by D'Artagnan for 10 points, named this nobleman and rival of Jean-Baptiste Colbert, who was prominent during the early reign of Louis XIV.
Forget the real guy, actor.
No. No, it's Nicolas Fouquet.
Okay. I see it.
Toss of 16. A recent paper by Ashok Kuzienko in Washington reports that public opinion in favor of this concept has declined among the elderly thanks to the non-universal coverage of Medicare and among African Americans for unclear reasons. According to the title of a book by Casey Mulligan, this concept caused the Great Recession. Kuzienko, Norton, and Sayes and Sancheva report that people who are explicitly told how much they would benefit from this concept having people told how much they would benefit from this concept erases the partisan opinion gap on issues like raising the estate tax and the minimum wage, erasing most of the partisan opinion gap on these issues. In a model by Meltzer and Richard, this concept occurs through progressive taxation because political power is more equitably allocated in income or wealth. 10 points, what is this concept? That usually refers to a transfer of resources from richer to poorer.
Redistribution.
That's right.
Yeah.
At one time, a one-time governor of North Carolina named John Owen supposedly helped convert this man to Christianity for 10 points each. Identify this Tupelo or Fullah who was captured and brought to America as a slave, where he wrote a noted Arabic language slave narrative.
It's not Arabic. We all know
Not Arabic.
He's not. Is this other guy?
yeah, I don't remember his name.
Williams.
All right, his name is Omar ibn Said. Although some Muslim-inspired music was preserved by slaves brought to the United States, drumming was banned following the 1739 Stono Rebellion in this colony. The citadel in this state was founded following Denmark-Beatty's rebellion.
South Carolina.
Some members of this Native American tribe were hired by the government to track down runaway slaves from the Stono Rebellion. Unlike the closely related Choctaw, they were allies of the British rather than French, and they signed the Treaty of Hopewell along with the Cherokee.
Greek, I would guess.
Okay. 17. It's not Oregon or California, but Lansford-born Hastings wrote a guide for immigrants to this country. Upon taking office, Jimmy Carter tried to pressure this country to abandon a nuclear deal it made with West Germany. Percy Harrison Fawcett and his son vanished on an expedition in this country.
Brazil.
15. Your bonus. The central characters of this play are obsessed with a radio they nicknamed Marconi. For 10 points each, identify this Brian Freer play in which the 5 unmarried Mundy sisters reminisce about performing the title action. It is narrated by Mike Evans, who describes his childhood to the audience.
This is famous.
What you got?
Play hopscotch.
Dancing at Lugnasa. Dancing at Lugnasa is often cited as an example of a memory play, a term coined by Tennessee Williams to describe this play, in which Tom describes his mother Amanda's attempts at finding Laura a gentleman caller.
Close menagerie.
In this one-act play, Deborah wakes up after 3 decades of sleep but still maintains the mind of a 16-year-old. It premiered in 1982 and was inspired by Oliver Sacks's book, Awakenings.
Is this another Brian Field one?
It is not.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
tell you that much. That part you got.
Bristol Fruit.
All right, the correct answer is a kind of Alaska. Alaska 18.
That's what's up.
What's our score?
245, 110.
No. 18. This artist ripped a traditional Catalan Caganer figurines for a pair of sculptures called Silver Moon and Blue Moon, which were exhibited in Berlin as part of his Blue Rider exhibit there. One of his early works featured 7 bitches tossing their pussies before the other title objects. Over 100 of his watercolor bursts of men and women with crazy hairstyles were exhibited at his one-man show, Afro Muses. This artist, who works from the port of Spain in Trinidad, incorporated baby teeth and some of his own hair into a sculpture of which the primary material was collected from the London Zoo. One of his paintings...
Okay. Do you want Chris O'Keefe?
You got 15 right.
That was 15.
That was 15.
You brought it.
That's how knowledge works. Answer the following by ketogenic diets for 10 points each. When following a ketogenic diet, it is important to not ingest too much protein, as this metabolic pathway can convert amino acids into glucose and throw you out of ketosis. You want to be thrown out of ketosis. This pathway converts pyruvate, lactate, and other carbon compounds into glucose during starvation.
The starvation cycle.
Okay, it's gluconeogenesis. In ketogenesis, fatty acids undergo beta oxidation to form acetyl-CoA, which is eventually used to synthesize this ketone body. This substance can be detected in urine with nitroprusside strips and can either decompose to acetone or oxidize to form beta-hydroxybutyrate. Oh boy.
Urea.
Acetoacetic acid. Unlike humans, plants can convert acetyl-CoA from fatty acids into usable carbohydrates through this pathway. This pathway requires enzymes malate synthase and isocytrate lyase. Okay.
The Calvin cycle.
It's the glyoxylate cycle. You get TOSI 19. One member of this class of proteins is fused with the monoclonal antibody tucotuzumab in a drug that targets the FCAM surface proteins in cancer cells. One member of this family of molecules stimulates bone resorption by osteoclasts following the decreased estrogen activity, thereby contributing to osteoporosis. The disorder XSCID is caused by mutations in the receptor for one type of these proteins, and those receptors generally contain a common gamma chain. The first and 18th one of these proteins is activated by a complex containing Picard and caspase-1 called inflammasome. TNF and one of these proteins can contribute to a breakdown of the blood-brain barrier during inflammation. Stimulating T cells with ionomycin and PMA will primarily induce them to produce interferon gamma and one of these compounds. Pinpointing these cytokines, which are named for their role in signaling between white blood cells. What do you got?
Yeah, they're called glucokines.
That is not what they're called. You. That's what they're
That's
called.
yeah.
Here's your bonus. This poem repeats farewell to an idea at the start of the second, third, and fourth sections and begins, "This is where the serpent lives, the botanist." 10 points each. Name this title poem of the 1950 poetry collection, which ends with "Angel surrounded by paisans" and was published 3 years after its author's collection, Transport to Summer. What do you got? It's the Auroras of Autumn, which was written by this American poet whose first collection, Harmonium, includes the snowman and Anecdote of the Jar.
Moral stance.
The speaker of this poem from Harmonium sees the color of the bushes and the fallen leaves turning in the wind at night. It ends with the speaker saying, I felt afraid and I remember the cry of the cause.
Is it a disappointment at 10 o'clock?
Wait, what they want
Can I say tail cats?
Oh,
Isn't the guy Peter Quince?
Peter Quince and Colgate.
No, it's domination of black, you get 10 points for the game, and it's also the tournament.
Oh, wait.
Wait, that's one wrong.
What?
That was
That was also 20.
You just said right.
You did it.
I might have lied.
Is that?
Wait,
wait,
how many
wait,
counts?
I have you one word.
What?
You might have.
Oh.
Turns out we're also that we paid for.
Oh yeah, fine. I do have to read you another topic. I thought I'd get away from you. All right, here we go. Toss up. In a later version of this play, some messages never get to Cambrai due to the actions of a character who begins the story having forged and delivered a letter. That character hopes that his father may be a king since his mother was unchaste, and says that he will be like Jove to Semele while attempting to rape the heroine, who asks her confidant Arante to disguise her as a man. The dedicatory epistle of that version described this play as a heap of jewels unstrung and unpolished. In this play's fourth act, a character calls his wife without changing to a self-covered thing, after telling her wisdom and goodness to the vile seem vile, filth savor but themselves. Its final scene is set at a camp near Dover, where its title character dies of grief, exclaiming, never, 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 never. During the restoration, audiences prefer the version of this play written by Nathan Tate.
English.
That's the points for you. Alright. Here's the bonus I tried to cheat about it. At one point in this piece, the mezzo-soprano is asked to sing an amplified piano in his final vocalise. A voice soprano joins the mezzo-soprano on stage for tempo teach. Identify the composition, subtitled A Cycle of Songs on Text by Federico Garcia Lorca, which is scored for a piano and musical saw, among other things.
John Cage or glad. That's, I don't know.
Improvisation.
Ancient Voices of Children is an experimental composition by this avant-garde American composer who also wrote the electric string quartet Black Retro. Another of Crumb's works is this 4-volume collection of piano works, the first 2 volumes of which are based on Signs of the Zodiac. Its name alludes to a set of piano pieces by Bela Bartok. That is 20 points, and that would be the game.
George Crumb.
Well done, everybody. Congratulations on your survival.
Thanks for editing.
I had a good time.
Chris.
Okay, bro.
Yeah, we had.
You go.